We were having Holy Communion on a Sunday. I was a bit late. Holy Communion would have stayed till I finished preaching. But because I was late, they took Holy Communion to fill the space. 200 meters to the church, I saw a mad woman with a baby on her back, walking very wildly. Everybody who met her was giving way. And I told my wife, I said, this is another one. This is another one. The reason is because there are 85 babies in our orphanage. We live with them. They live with me. 6 out of them were picked, were taken from mad women who give birth on the street. And when some of them, you want to take the baby, you will not release the baby, so we take the 2. If you get to my house now, you see 8 mad women who are also with their children there. The sight of their children calmed them. I told my wife, I said, this is another one. She was barely dressed. The gado that she used to hold the baby was sagging. She was using one hand to where I was going. I said, this is another one. But I'm late to church. My wife said, but what are you going to do? I said, when I get to church, I will not preach for long. I will come and pursue. If she does not branch off this main street, I will catch up with her. I got to church and I said, church, on my way coming, I met a mad woman. She passed in front of our church and everybody who saw her gave way. But I don't want to give way. I said, I'm not going to preach for long to you. I'll preach very briefly. And I've told the ushers who are controlling the traffic, take a car. You will have to be like 3 or 4 to handle her. And go on this street. If she does not vacate the street, you catch up with her. Wherever you meet with her, sit her down there and wait for me. My wife said, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. If we can't help her, we can help the baby. I told the ushers, take a car, and they have gone. And I said, church, as I'm preaching to you now, the ushers have gone. So I will not be preaching for long. You are the 99. I had just preached a few minutes when the head usher in our church walked up to me on the stage and said, sir, you see, we don't want you to shortchange us because of a mad woman who is passing by. So preach our full sermon to us. Mad woman, that we have brought the woman and is sitting in front of the church. Then I told the church, I said, what the head of usher is saying is that the woman I told you about, that they have brought her and she's sitting in front of the church. Then they clapped. I said, so I will preach. I'll be relaxed. But I was also conscious of the fact that this mad woman that you kept in front of the church, I have some members who usually come late. Even if you tell them that Jesus is going to come next Sunday. In fact, one of them told me, he said, sir, don't be annoyed. He said that sometimes when she stands in front of the wardrobe like this to make a choice, that's a serious matter. That my prayer is answered. Because that now, if you stand in front of wardrobe like this to make a choice of which dress, it takes time. Because by the time you find the correct dress, you have to look for the correct bag. You have to look for the correct shoe. You have to look for the correct... I said, it's all right. I was conscious of them. I know them. And I knew that when they come and meet this exhibit that you put in front of our church here on Sunday morning, they will just turn back. I still, therefore, decided to make it brief. And then I've just gone a few more minutes when the head usher came and said, Daddy, you did not come on time. Everybody is looking at us. I think you are the head of usher in this church. You didn't tell me I didn't come on time. And what about it? He said, we saw that the woman was hungry. We saw these Hausa people who sell puff inside the glass. We bought some and gave it to her and her child. But there is no water for her to drink. I said, look, I'm preaching. He said, sorry, sir, what I want to say is that. I say what you want to say. We are here. The whole church is watching. What I want to say is that the wine that we drank remained, that was left over after we ate Holy Communion, the excess wine that we wanted to pour away. Since there's no water for her to drink, one of us said, in the name of Jesus, give her. And one other usher said, Holy Communion wine, you give it to a mad person where they were pass. Then he asked the person, are you going to take it home? Give it to her for her to drink. She will be well now. And the ushers gathered around her and were praying and gave her the wine, and she drank and she became well. If I was not briefing the congregation steadily as the events were folding, you would think that we're trying to make something up. I told the church, you remember I told you about the woman? They said yes. You remember I told you that the ushers brought the woman to the door here? I said yes. I said, well, what she's here to tell me now is that the wine you drank remain. That wine has been given to her and she's now well. Then the church, I was preaching the easiest sermon in my life as the church erupted in joy when I now asked, because she told me, she said, sir, we ushers, we look among ourselves and look at her size. And some of you here, who are ushers, your house is not far and you are her size. You can find dress in the house and bring it in 5 minutes. Your house is not far. They went home and brought a dress and she's wearing the dress. Another one said, this baby that she's carrying, you have a baby about that same age. Can you get home quick and bring some dress for the baby? And they went and did that. And as I was talking, the usher told me that this woman and her child are seated in the congregation. And when I now told the congregation this process and the narratives from one interruption to another, the interruption was becoming an intervention. As I was telling the church step by step as the events were unfolding, and to now let the church know that after drinking the leftover of the wine you drank, there was a man in the church, he had brain problem, so he carried his drug to the church. Each time the team want to do one, then he quickly swallow a pill to calm himself down. But he said to himself, and I never knew until this event was over, that I drank the original. This one drank the leftover and became well. He said, how can I drink the original and I'm still mad? There's something is wrong with me. He came and gave the drugs. I said, from today, I'm not taking this medicine again. And 4 years after, he was still well. I asked, where is the woman that we've been talking about? She stood up. The ushers dressed her up and even gave her a hat that looked like the type Mama Debo you used to wear like that. The ushers dressed her up and the baby, the woman stood up in the congregation. The woman I saw on the street 30 minutes ago, I can't know her again when she had just become a member of the congregation. That is what God can do. But this is not down to a great pastor who preached. It's down to the ushers. Let our ushers go to work. Let the choir go to work. Let children church go to work. Fruitfulness, as we are talking about, it will be coming in from all sides. That's the way the body grows. The body, the hand is growing, the leg is growing, the head is growing, the eye is growing. That's the way the body grows. And I'm praying that from this point onward, we will manage our growth. Everybody will contribute to the growth of the church.